This is the Inside the SAWX podcast, presented by Grandstand Productions, hosted by Rob Anglin, starting in 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to Inside the SAWX podcast, hosted by Grandstand Productions. And as of today, we are on the Grandstand Productions YouTube channel moving forward. And it's a very important because it's a very special episode today. As always, we got the normal crew, me, my good friend and producer, Justin, Italy, Jet, Gino, Harrison, and Dev. And today we got a special guest, Joey Copponi from the Inside the Monster podcast. How are you doing today, Joey?
I'm doing very well. I do have to legally say it's the ITM podcast. I hate to be that guy. It is ITM. It stands for absolutely nothing. Legally speaking, my lawyer has advised me to inform you it stands for absolutely nothing. But thank you so much for having me on, dude. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. As always, we just wanted to get you on here to pick your brain about your career and what it's like working for Red Sox media, and also just to talk to you about Red Sox baseball in general. I always tell people about this podcast is like a couple dudes talking in a bar about baseball. So just thank you.
Those are my favorite things, talking ball and talking about myself. So that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start off. We're going to do kind of like a round table. I'll start with me and I'll go around the table. My question for you is, because I'm in school right now, obviously for journalism and communications and working in the media. I want to know what got you into working with the media and what's your favorite part about working in the media?
Yeah, so my start was a little different than other people's. I didn't go to journalism school. I went to film school and originally wanted to work, in Hollywood, working in movies and stuff. Sports was always just a hobby, and I imagined it would stay that way. In 2018, what a year, I worked for the New Hampshire Fisher Cats because I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I worked with their video team, so I was cutting highlights and I was manning a camera in the dugout for MILB TV, and that was my start in baseball. And then this company called Lumberland, I saw that they had a job listing where they were looking for a content creator to make baseball-themed social media content. And I had a baby on the way at the time, so I kind of couldn't keep working movie to movie, gig to gig. And this seemed like a steady thing. I had some experience with social media, obviously with video. So I took that job, and Lumberland is a big, like, if you know kind of thing. Because when I tell some people, I have to start from zero and tell them exactly what it is. And then some people I mention Lumberland and they're like, oh my God, I love those guys. So it was a TikTok thing, games and whatever. It was a baseball novelty product company that also had a pretty good sized social media following. And one of those followers was Steve Peralt from the Section 10 podcast. He listened to our podcast, our daily sports podcast, and reached out to me, wanted to collaborate on something. We made a couple videos together. And then when he told me he was leaving Section 10 and was joining Odyssey at the time, I asked if I would submit an audition tape. I did, and got back to me and told me that I got it. And after getting it, realized it was the official podcast of the SAWX, which was a shock to me. And then, since then have since moved over to Sports Illustrated, where we are now. And it's been crazy, man. I mean, I went from, the 2021 playoff run. I was, scrounging together money to try to get into the park and, sitting in the, 12-inch blue seats. And, come opening day the next year, I'm on the field meeting guys. So it was a shock. It was a lot. The media landscape is certainly changing. So I'm glad that I'm coming in when I am, because it really was the old school newspaper, magazine guys. And now there is a transition over where a lot of the online content creators, TikTok guys, whatever, are getting credentialed and talking to players and whatever. So they're a little more comfortable now as time goes on, answering questions about what's your favorite pizza topping versus, hey, you had an error in the fourth inning. What do you think you need to work on? So things are changing in that way. So I'm happy to come in when I am, but still shocking nonetheless to be here.
That is amazing to hear. I know about Lumberland, like you said, over TikTok. I feel like me, Dev, and Harrison, we make TikTok content all the time on there. So we know about Lumberland. We know what they're about. Obviously, they're known more for their videos on TikTok, and obviously their products are great. The little bat mugs, gotta love those. But that sounds like really, really awesome. That's kind of like running off of Justin's question that Justin wanted to ask you. He wanted to know what got you into the media game, like what made you want to choose this path in your career.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of stumbled into it. I was always a fan, and I imagined it would stay that way. And I didn't realize how much Steve talks about this all the time. I didn't realize how much personal relationships help getting you into the industry. It's not just about being the best; it's about being likable. And I'm sure you know that in journalism school that you're going to get the best stuff when you have a close relationship with people. But I didn't realize how much you'd be given based off of getting along with people. So I think, and the same thing was true in the film industry, where if somebody is a 10 out of 10 at their job, but they're a 5 out of 10 hang, they're probably not going to get the job over somebody who is the opposite, who is a 5 out of 10 at their job, but is enjoyable being around, because it is a job that requires so much time together and whatever. I was lucky enough to kind of stumble into it. I was a big Section 10 fan. So when Steve reached out, I was honestly a little starstruck. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like I really look up to this guy, and now he's a pal. So I can't say I imagined myself getting into it. It was really like the stars just kind of aligned for me, and it was one of those things where like you dream about it, but you can't get too invested in it, because you're like, oh man, that would just be heartbreaking to not to dream it and then have it not happen. So yeah, I can't say I went after it as much as I put myself out there, and it kind of found me.
I love that. I love the way you look at that, because it's like sometimes your idols become your peers, especially when you're working your way up in a career. And that's awesome that you got a good relationship with Steve, especially like having that podcast. It's amazing. Gino, you had a couple of questions for Joey. I wanted to let you get your time on the table here, and let's ask some questions.
Joey, how you doing? Good to have you on the
All right,
pod. Good to have you on the pod. So you've said Sports Illustrated, ITM pod. You do another pod called Bear With Me pod.
Yeah.
Okay, the biggest interview you've had on it could be either one of those three, but the biggest interview you've ever had. It could be a player, it could be general manager. Who's the biggest player you've interviewed?
Gosh, that's tough. Honestly, getting Haim on the show every time. I mean, it's only happened twice, but maybe a third time coming soon. Every time I talk to Haim is alarming, because it reminds you of who Haim is. When he starts talking about making decisions, like, wait, it really does fall on your shoulders. So that is pretty crazy. I would say the first one that I did was definitely the one I was the most nervous for, and that was Christian Arroyo. We were down in Fort Myers last year for spring training, and we were in the clubhouse and approached him and said, hey, man, like whenever you got time, would love to talk to you, just 10, 20 minutes whenever you get a sec. And he stood up from his locker and was like, actually right now is a good time. And I was like, I have nothing prepared. I have absolutely nothing. I am so starstruck. I've never been in the clubhouse. I've never talked to any of these guys. And then to have to sit down and try to talk to him, that was definitely the one that I'll remember the most, because we have a video of it that's on YouTube, and I think I'm actually visibly shaking, because I feel like I'm trespassing, because I'm like, in the backfields, and I'm like, so you hit a big home run last year. What was that like? Can you explain what that was like? So that was crazy. Wade Boggs was crazy, just talking to a Hall of Famer. They're all different in their own way, but I will say in time now, talking to players has become a little more relaxed, but that definitely took some time. That's not something that just off the bat was easy to do by any means.
Yeah, like secondhand. Like it's now you're getting into it, getting more comfortable. The more you do it, it just comes like that.
100%, yeah.
So when it comes to what you do with ITM Pod, how did that come across? Like, how did that come to life for you?
Yeah, so Steve reached out and brought me over to Odyssey, and at the time it was just to do the show, and then it became running the socials, and then with Odyssey they wanted me to run some other stuff too. So I kind of got like full time over there. Was able to leave Lumberland and invest a bunch of my time over there, and then Odyssey don't know how much you guys follow the news, but they how do you say it? They don't have as many employees as they used to.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
So when we left, I really wasn't sure what the future was, and Steve made it really clear to me he wanted to keep doing the show with me, which was really, really nice. And Scott Neville from gosh, there's so many denominations from the Sports Illustrated umbrella. Scott Neville reached out to us and was one of the people who kind of had a pitch, say, wait, why don't you come over here? And we listened to him, but we didn't really know him. And honestly, we didn't have the highest expectations for it. But the way he laid it out and the amount of freedom that he wanted to give us and, the connections that he had to make interviews happen and the fact that we could get credentialed and that we were really in control of our own stuff. Like we're able to make merch now and put out, whatever we want on pretty quick turnarounds, like the Please Be Fair shirts. When Doogie said that in the post game, we had those out the same night. So that kind of stuff that Scott pitched to us was really, really appealing. So we made the decision to hop over there, and very happy with the decision to go over there. And it's been awesome. They've hooked us up and helped so much. And yeah, it's all gone pretty well, man. No complaints over here.
That's good to hear. And that, yeah, especially those shirts, I see them every time. Whenever there's a huge moment, I always see the shirts online. I've been tempted to buy them, but being a struggling college student, sometimes it's hard to get that money up. Harrison, I know you had a couple of questions for Joey. You could ask whenever you're ready, brother.
Actually, I want to go last, by the way.
Oh, okay. You want to go
Save
last?
Him for last.
Dev, we'll go. Dev, go ahead. Ask some questions.
So knowing that you guys are in the media and, Steve Perrault, probably one of the most humblest guys in Boston, what's like your best interaction that you've ever had, whether podcast episode or in person, that you've had with Steve Perrault?
Oh my God. It's like asking, like, what's your best, like, I've never said this to Steve. I hope he doesn't listen to this. I mean, I hope he does for the sake of downloads for you guys, but I also, Steve, mute this. Steve's one of my best friends. So I really don't know how to say, like, what's like my favorite memory with one of my best friends. You know what is pretty crazy? We were in LA last year for the All-Star game, and we're at this after party after the home run derby. This is nuts. And I really don't know how we got in. Like, it was like an invite of an invite of an invite. Like, we had no business being there. And the people at the door stopped me and told me that I couldn't be wearing shorts. And I was like, well, I already am. I don't know what to do. And like, they saw our names on the list and then apologized for the trouble. We're like, oh, please write this way. I'm like, that is brand new to me. I'm so sorry, sir. Write this way. That is new. And I went in, and the first person I saw when I walked through the door was Albert Pujols. And then coming in the side door was Chuck the Iceman Liddell. I was like, okay, where am I? And then Steve was like, yo, I'll be right back. I saw him disappear behind a door or up some stairs that said VIP. I was like, oh, very cool. And could see from where I was that he went up and dapped up David Ortiz and like gave him a selfie, and then came back down and treated it like it was nothing. He's like, oh, I was just saying, hey. I think that was like the most shocking Steve Perrault moment, where I was like, that you're just saying hi to Poppy. Yeah. Just treat it like it's nothing, dude. But I mean, Steve's such a fun guy, so I don't even know how to like narrow it down. That's the one that stands out to me when I think of like Steve's stature kind of getting lost on me sometimes.
That's awesome. Yeah. My other question for you is that you guys have been to a lot of major league ballparks. So what's the most magical moment that you guys had at a major league ballpark, whether it's no-hitter wise or interaction with someone?
Gosh, man. Weird to say that. So the first park that I went to as a credentialed media member was Yankee Stadium. And that was a total shock, because although Yankee Stadium is Yankee Stadium, it's imposing and it's newer and it's rich. So when you walk through the doors of the media entrance and you get to the media dining and you get to the back halls and whatever, it's intimidating. And walking through the visitor clubhouse, down the stairs out to because the way you get to the field as a media member is the same way the players get to the field. You like walk out the stairs into the dugout. which is, I felt like I had won some kind of raffle. Like, why am I here? So walking there and then like standing on the field, I remember I texted my mom. I was like, this is ridiculous. So that's it's hard to beat that one. The first time at Dodger Stadium, if you guys have never been to Dodger Stadium, make a trip because that's nuts. You like walk out at the top of the park and it's below you, and then the Hollywood Hills are beyond that. You can see the Hollywood sign. That's crazy. In terms of like in-game stuff that's crazy, I don't really have one that like stands out. I think every time Shohei is around, the buzz in the park wows me. When he came to Fenway last year, we got there hours and hours early, and the whole area around the bullpen was just flooded with people who had presumably come from Japan, like holding signs in Japanese. They're chanting and singing songs, and it's unbelievable. Brings an energy that you just can't find anywhere else. So that I think is really hard to top. I don't know if there's anything in game that could top that, honestly.
Wow. So you guys have like never been to like a no-hitter before or seen like a magical walk-off or nothing?
I'm thinking, I mean, what comes to mind for me, this is long before my media days, was at the 19-inning game at Fenway that Hanley got the walk-off for. That one was an experience because everybody had left. There was maybe 300 people, and we were all behind home plate. And they had stopped selling beer in the 7th inning, as they do, and it was now the 19th inning. So everybody had collectively like sobered up and got hungover together. And so it was just miserable, and it was like 2 a.m. And then that Hanley walk-off, just the 300 of us there sounded like 30,000. So that's one that stands out. But like I said, that was long before my media days. That was probably 2016, probably around there.
One thing I wanted to ask you too about your media career is what are some things that you have learned working in media, and what are some things that you, if for up and coming people who are trying to make a living, either if it's a podcast or under the media, what are some things that you would like to tell people or teach them?
Talk to people. That's the number one. Talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Act like you belong. Without it's a thin line. You know what I mean? It's kind of a tightrope where you want to act like you belong and you want to fit in, but you definitely don't make yourself too known right away. You know, if you're in a media scrum and it's your first week, you don't need to speak up. You don't need to ask a question. You know, let guys do their thing. But also introduce yourself to a player, introduce yourself to other media guys. That was a big one for me where I was like, oh, I just want to blend in so I won't talk to anybody. And then realized like that's worse. That's not blending in. That's standing out because everyone's going to be like, who is that guy? I've never talked to him. So that's one thing. I mean, there's so many little things that you learn as you go. I would say one for me is don't hold player relationships in such a high regard that you can't criticize players. You know, I've been lucky enough to, you know, talk to a lot of the players and develop, you know, some relationships with them. But I never want to be at a place where if a guy is really, really struggling, where I can't get on the show and say, this guy really needs to pick it up, in fear that he might hear it and like destroy that relationship. And you do see that a lot. So there are guys on the team that are struggling that you don't see as much criticism for, because those media guys have close relationships with player X, and they're like, well, I can't really write a hit piece about him. And I think that you start to lose some credibility in that way, and it's so commonplace that I think it's just kind of overlooked. But that's one for me that really bugs me. But I mean, there's so many little rules. It's like it's very, very much a fraternity and sorority. But you just learn these little things as you go. Like, oh, you don't eat during this time. You don't, you know, don't talk to this guy when he's doing this, you know. So there's so many little rules. I wouldn't even know where to start there. But getting in, it's just talk to people and just reach out to people. Like, you know, folks like me, like when Justin DM'd me and was like, come on, or do you want to come on? I was like, absolutely. Like, I would say, don't be afraid to do that stuff and talk to people. That's how you get your name out there. And that's how you develop those relationships that end up creating opportunities for you.
I feel like that's one great thing, especially working in media, is just getting, like you said, reaching out to people, talking to people. I feel like one thing that I want to learn is just getting to talk to new people and just being afraid. Because sometimes I'm a little scared to shoot that message out, shoot that
Sure.
DM out, but sometimes you got to shoot your shot. I know Justin wanted to ask you something. I don't know if he wanted to put something up on the screen or if he wanted me to read it for him. Here we go. He said, correct me if I'm wrong. The 21 playoffs was the start of your partnership with Steve, right? Well, that playoff run made me start Grandstand Productions. Even though Laz Diaz exists, it still means so much to us.
Yeah, so that's when we started talking. Because it wasn't until the offseason that like our partnership became official, but it was like right before the playoff run that we had made a couple videos together, and then we met up at the park during the 21 series. But that was when Steve was doing the Rally Cups thing, so he was dressed as a Reese's cup walking around Fenway. So like he was seeing people and handing out candy and being like the honorary third mascot of the team. So I didn't really get to hang out with him all too much. He was pretty busy. But yeah, that was like the beginning of our relationship. I totally understand why that would inspire you to go and create a sports media branch, because my God, how much fun was that? And it sucks that we haven't had that again. I really, really believed last year was going to be a run it back kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then really believed that this year was going to be a much better team because somebody who's in charge of the team said that it was going to be. And it really hasn't been. They are worse than they were in 2022 right now, record-wise. So that's fun. But yeah, no, man. What an amazing run. That 21 wildcard game, I think, is the greatest sports experience I've ever had in person. That place was electric. It was on fire. I was sitting in, oddly enough, section 10, and my whole section was on their feet, like jumping, screaming, chanting the whole game. It was unbelievable.
It really did feel like that, even like the week before, because I went to that Red Sox Yankee series in September, like that Friday night game. It felt like a playoff game, especially like that late playoff push. Every Red Sox Yankee game, I feel like at Fenway feels like a playoff game. Everybody's on their feet, electric, packed stadium. Cold, doesn't matter, cold night, summer night, doesn't matter. It feels like October every single time. Gino, I know you had a couple questions. I know I'm going to go to Dev too, and then we're going to end it off with Harrison because I know Harrison wants to ask. Gino, what do you got? Any more questions?
So I got one more for you, Joey. Appreciate you being on the pod. The state of the Red Sox right now. What do you think they're going to do in the trading deadline? What do you think needs to change?
I think it's too early to start thinking about the trade deadline. I have no idea what they're going to do because you don't know what they're going to look like.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, they have so many 1-year contracts, 2-year contracts that it's not impossible to offload guys. So it's something to think about. But again, I think we're just too far away from it because they're not playing the game that they should right now. I don't think that they're a 500 team. I think they're better than that. The offense is just in this crazy power outage. Like they're only scoring runs in bunches, which is so weird. Like it's just like the switch just flips and they, a double, a walk, a single, a homer, and then nothing for 4 games. And that's not, no team is built like that. That's just some weird luck where things aren't going their way a lot of the time. And then when it does, it does. So I think that they find a groove. They've also had one of the hardest schedules in baseball up to this point, which I don't think anybody's really talking about. They, by the numbers, have, if not the hardest, then in the top like 3. So they do have to go on a pretty crazy run to make it into the postseason this year. But I don't think it's impossible. I think with Duvall coming back, I think with Story coming back, with Sale hopefully not being down for too long, you can make it. But from here out, the 30-30 at the time we're recording this, they would have to go 58-44 to finish with 88 wins. And that is a really, really low ball benchmark to make it into the postseason. It's probably going to be more like 92-94 games that they need. Then you start talking about going 60-42 the rest of the way. That's pretty tough. So if you think this team is 20 games over 500 from here out, then I think they have a shot to make it in. But it's it's tough to tell because it's totally possible. They just won 8 in a row not too long ago. And we were talking about how everybody was clicking, is Verdugo going to be an all-star? Is Masataka Yoshida the best hitter in baseball? Is Adam Duvall, Ted Williams 2.0? Like, there's all these things that can go right again. And I think you don't even need all of them to go right at the same time. You just need like 2 or 3 of them to go right and get some wins on the board. It's such a wait and see. And it sucks to say that because it's an unsexy answer, but like, that's what it was in spring too. Like, I didn't have any predictions for this team. It was, they're going to be around 500. Is it a couple games over? Is it a couple games below? And it's just a wait and see game. And I hate to give that kind of answer, but it really is just wait and see. And I have hope that I have faith that they are capable of being a borderline playoff team.
Thank you.
That's a great way of looking at it too. I feel like, especially like it's one of those things that, especially this team, you can't count them out because they have proven that they can put they've proven they can come back. They prove they can win in a streak. And that's just the game of baseball. Baseball is kind of like a streaky game. Sometimes you go on a losing streak. Sometimes you get on a winning streak. Dev, do you have any other questions before I turn to Harrison?
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult question to ask, but Chaim Bloom has made some very questionable calls as a GM. Yeah. Which move by Chaim Bloom are you more upset about? Trading away Mookie Betts or not giving Xander Bogaerts that max contract?
So remember what I said about not destroying relationships when no, I'm just joking because honestly, Chaim is like super receptive to criticism. So I believe the Mookie thing was entirely out of his control. I think the return for him has been awesome because you look at Mookie's contract and, he's there for, what was it, like 13 years, 12 years?
12 to 13 years,
Yeah. And you think like, oh, we lost 12 years of Mookie. No, you lost 1 year of Mookie, and it ended up being a 60-game season of Mookie. So losing Mookie for the 2020 season got you all of the production from Alex Verdugo up to this point and Connor Wong. So it's not crazy to now look at the Mookie trade, not to sound overly homerish here, but to look at it and say, like, that kind of worked out. Would I love Mookie here? Absolutely. Do I think they needed to trade him? Like, do I feel pity for John Henry's wallet? No. Like, could have easily paid him. But given the restraints that were put on Chaim by ownership, I think the return he got was awesome. I think it's weird because it's not the return he expected because Jeter Downs was supposed to be the face of that trade, and he actually ended up being the only piece that didn't contribute, which is odd.
Right.
But I think he lucked out in that sense. Chaim he rolled the dice, and it worked out that Doogie and Wong have really been big pieces of this team. The Xander one is weird because he never should have got to free agency. He's a guy that gives you so much more than what he gives you on the field. He was the face of your team. He's the leader. He does everything right. And it was heartbreaking to lose him. And the numbers that were coming out were crazy low. And when we were at the winter meetings in San Diego in December, and we were getting whispers that like it was done. Like he's coming back to the Sox. They got a number that he really likes. And then that number turned out to be $100 million off. And that's concerning. That's what upset me is that like, okay, why was there so much confidence? Unless the number that we heard wasn't real, it's nuts to be that far off and believe that he's willing to accept it. And that feels like a big disconnect between the market and what their wallet is willing to do. I think they were smart to not match the Padres offer. I think everybody agrees on that. I think the Padres offer was absolutely insane. And I think that there was the kindling of a story that never really caught traction in Boston. And that's how much Xander's wrist is an issue, that he's getting cortisone shots every week in his wrist. And like, we already knew he had some issues with it, but we didn't know the extent of it. The Sox presumably did. So there's something to be said about the offer reflecting his health, which at the time was really frustrating because we didn't know it was reflecting any health. But there's again, I hate to sound overly homerish here, but like we would be ripping that deal apart if we gave him that money, knowing what his wrist looked like here. So I don't really blame Heim for that one either. The thing, I don't want to sound like I'm just praising Heim because I have a relationship with Heim. So I do, to answer your question kind of adjacently and find something that I do want to criticize Heim for, it's that he made a promise early this year that the Sox needed at least 2 top of the rotation guys. And to come out and say that and then not deliver on that sucks. And the one guy that you did get from, and I understand some of that's out of their control, that like Nathan Eovaldi didn't accept the offer at the time they gave it to him, but they could have given it to him again when he came back. They chose not to. Eflin just not wanting to play here. Okay, that sucks too. But like then you have to go out and follow up on your promise, and you have to get top of the rotation guys. What you can't do is get Corey Kluber for 1 year, have him suck, and then be like, I guess we'll just call up some people from Worcester and just put some bullpen arms in the rotation. We'll just make it work. Well, it's proving to really not work. That is a massive weak spot on the team. And actually talked to Heim in Philadelphia and asked him straight up, like, do you think, like, let's say postseason comes, let's say you sneak in. Are you happy with this group of guys being the playoff rotation? And he was kind of like, yeah, I guess. Yeah. You had this, like, I guess they could, but it's not the level of confidence which we were like led to believe at the beginning. And that to me is like the biggest criticism to give Heim this year, is that like, if you're going to come forward and say something so black and white, you've got to deliver on it. And he didn't.
That is one thing I looked at too, especially saying when he told Kike this team's going to be better on paper when he offered that extension. And then this team is kind of giving me, especially as of late at least, giving me that same vibe that 2022 did. Not fighting back earlier in the year, showing a lot of fight. Now they're kind of not. It's like inconsistency, especially in the rotation. The bullpen has been better than last year. I'll tell you that much. That bullpen, at least a little bit. But hopefully we could turn this thing around. Harrison, I know you wanted to ask some questions last, so go ahead. You're on the table, brother. Your turn.
All right, hey dude, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, dude. I'm a little nervous why you wanted to be last. I feel like I'm going to get insulted or something. Save it for last so you can log off right after.
Right.
No, I just want to ask you quick questions about the season, and also I got some nicknames that you want to hear because I'm actually like the nickname God of the Century, and also the future. So what is the we heard about the DFA Tapia? Like, how did you feel about Heimblum like DFAing Tapia?
I didn't love it because I think that there's other guys that would be considered, the bottom of the roster. I think that Tapia came through in some moments for you that were unexpected and that he was kind of exceeding expectations. I really liked Tapia. I wasn't expecting to at the beginning of the year, but I think that he's been reliable. But especially with Duvall coming back, like you don't need 7 outfielders, right, which is what was going to happen because that's what Kike is. So, when Story comes back, you keep Tapia on there, you got 7 outfielders and you don't need that. So I get it. I think that he served a great purpose. It's like I got to remove emotion from it a little bit and be like, yeah, it actually kind of is the smart move. I'm interested to see what other moves happen. I think those are more interesting to me. Like, well, when Duvall comes back, what happens with Jaron? What happens with Valdez now that Christian Arroyo is back? What happens when Yu Chang gets healthy? Like those infield moves and outfield moves, those are the ones that really pique my interest. I can't say I expected the Tapia move, but in thinking about it, it does make sense.
Okay. So what will happen if when we get Duvall, we get Story back, and also Story, Duvall, and Yu Chang coming back? Like, how do you feel? Do you think this team can come back together, saying like we can try to be like? I said a hot take here before. I said we can be like the 2019 Washington Nationals. Do you think that's a bad take, or do you think that's like oh God, that's just like 50-50? It could happen.
It totally could. I don't know. Roster wise, it's so strange because it's hard to argue that anybody is a weaker link than Kike Hernandez. So when those two guys are back, when Chang and Story are back, I don't know if Kike sticks around, but that's like a really hard decision to make because they were touting him around as the face of the team. And to just let him go, how much do they care about the optics? How much do they care about Cora's relationship with Kike? And you just don't know. So I think the roster construction is going to be odd. So I don't know what the team is actually going to look like when everybody's healthy. But, it's the numbers are hard to deny. So, if you want a 90-win team for the next 102 games, now you're talking, 60 and 42? It's tough. I really don't know if they can sneak in. It's totally possible, but you don't know what kind of Story you're getting back. You don't know what kind of Duval you're getting back because Duval set expectations for himself that are beyond unrealistic. They're absolutely crazy. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this guy back who's on pace to hit 82 bombs. Like, perfect. You're gonna get some versions of some guys that you haven't seen before. So if everything goes right, if everybody clicks, if Devers gets back to what he's supposed to be, if Yoshi stays what he is, if Duval is insane, if Story is great, yes, that is totally possible. But you still also need pitching. Like, I don't think that like this roster alone is enough. Like, Paxton's hot right now. Does he maintain that? I don't know. When does Chris Sale come back? Does he stay healthy once he does come back? Like, you still need 1 or 2 arms, and it's going to be tough to get those arms while staying under the luxury tax because they've made it clear they want to stay under. So it's a whole bunch of ifs, but it's not impossible, I guess, is the short answer.
Okay, I got probably 3 more questions. So we heard about the news about Trevor Story wants to be a DH man. Do you want to keep Trevor Story as a DH man? Like, if he's let's just say not 75% healthy, would you want to keep him as a DH when he gets to 100%? He could go back onto the field and just make these those sick plays that he did last year.
I want anything that gets Kike Hernandez off of shortstop. Anything that gets Kike, I don't want to say off the team, but off the team, right? So no, I don't want Story DHing unless it's like Chang, Valdez, Arroyo kind of just cycling through. I don't really want Arroyo short either. Sorry, Christian, but no, I would. You have so many DH options, and Justin Turner gives you so much flexibility in the infield to be able to give Tristan Cassis a day at DH or give Devers a day at DH, and you have enough outfielders where Yoshi can get a day, Duval can get a day. I don't mind getting him off his feet and getting him in there, but you need a real shortstop. And there were some criticisms about Story's arm, but his elbow is better. That's the whole thing, is that he is better. He was playing not at 100%. Hopefully this surgery made him 100% again, and we don't have to worry about his arm. And then we can just have a solid shortstop, and we don't have to worry about God, should we call somebody up? Who do we put in there? Because your shortstop is leading Major League Baseball in errors. I would just like a shortstop who doesn't do that, and I believe that's going to be Story.
Okay, I want to hear some nicknames that you think that I came up with. I hope you kind of agree with this. Okay,
all right. I'm going to be brutally honest here. I don't feather anything. If I don't like it, I'm going to tell you straight up, Harrison. I want you to know that.
Okay.
Honesty is the best policy.
That is true.
Honestly, it's the best policy. I agree, Rob. So basically, Trevor Story, right? So every single time when he hits at bat or he makes a great defense, we always scream, "Story time with Trevor."
That feels like that would be coming from the PA guy. That's a long thing to get a lot of people doing. I'll say that.
Okay.
I like story time. I've heard the author on Trevor. The author's maybe one too many steps away. I love story time. I'm down for story time with Trevor.
Okay, so I call Nick Pavetta the Viper. If that's okay with that, or it's just
okay. All right, give me your rationale there.
It's just I just looked at his last name. His name is Pavetta, right? If you
Yeah.
think about it, put the VIP, it's like Viper, for an example, you know?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um,
I've heard on his baseball or his baseball reference, they have his nickname listed as Piv. So anything that's not Piv, I'm for, because Piv is terrible.
yeah, that's like
It's bad.
shit.
So I'm down for it. He needs to. No, you know what? No. Nick Pivetta doesn't deserve a nickname right now. Because like even Steve and the Section 10 guys, they had Nicky Smooches for him. We haven't even called him that in a long time. He doesn't deserve it. You lost your
I love
spot in
that.
the rotation and you stomped your feet on the way out the door, dude. Get in the bullpen and you're Nick Pivetta. End of story. Until you can you pitch like the Viper if you want to be the Viper.
Harrison, what about the nickname we got for Justin Turner that we came up with?
Oh, it's this. Oh wait, I actually put the wrong background. God damn it. So yeah, that was like me when I was just sad. So Justin Turner. So he has the ginger hair. He has the ginger beard. People were calling him Pop Tart, by the way, but me and Rob agreed on me on this. We call him the Red Rifle.
The Red Rifle?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he got the red hair. Also, when he played third base, he's got a good arm. He's a good defensive third baseman when he played there. Got a good arm. Got a rifle for an arm. The red beard, the ginger hair, Red Rifle. I kind of like it.
Red Rifle. I thought you were gonna say Red Rider. I don't mind the Red Rifle. I gotta. The thing is, he doesn't play all too much in the infield, so I gotta see his arm more. Where does he rank? Let me just look this up here. Where is he?
Because when he was on the Dodgers, he played a lot of third base.
He did. Let's see his arm strength. It's not even on here. Well, you know what? I'm going to take your word for it. Arm strength, 28th percentile last year, brother. 28th percentile in arm strength, 18th percentile the year before. I don't know if I can give him that.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. That's fair.
All right, so Rafi Devers, right? So because he always has that, he has that face, right? Because people, I always sing the song like, "Baby face, you got this pretty little baby face." I mean, like, come on, he doesn't age, dude. He's 26 years old. It's just like he looks like he's 16.
I listened to a podcast he did with what is it called? La Nacion. It's a Mexican podcast, and the podcast is all in Spanish, and they exclusively call him Carita. Like you see the merch, like they try to push the Carita thing among the SAWX. Like, they'll have the giveaway with like the Carita hat, and it's like nobody calls him that. I guess the Spanish-speaking community just does, which is babyface. So I'm fine working in babyface into English more because it apparently is like the nickname that they call him in the Spanish-speaking community. And I think we should all be on the same page. Unity amongst La Nacion.
You're right. Okay. You're right. All right. So this is my last nickname. I know there's a lot of nicknames I came up with, but I just want to do like 5 nicknames for now. Let me think of one. Like Kenley Jansen. I call him the doorman.
The doorman.
If you think about it, because he always gets the job done, but if he doesn't, like he's not that good,
He does leave the door open sometimes.
Yes,
he opens some doors that are supposed to stay shut. So dual meaning. I like it. You can use it positively or negatively depending on how he's performing. I like that.
And also about myself.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you I've never been to Fenway Park?
I would say, where do you live?
I live in North Carolina.
Okay, then I'd say I understand. But
St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri.
You're in St. Louis?
Yeah.
That doesn't look like St. Louis behind you. I don't know why those walls don't scream Missouri at me.
Hey, I try to hide it. No, I'm kidding. Oh.
They have real drywall in Missouri? You guys aren't using hay down there?
Nah, it's more spread out than you think. There's a lot going on. It's small.
I'm just taking shots at Missouri for no reason. There's no need for that. Didn't need to do that. But
you're good.
No, man. I mean, drop what you're doing and get there. I went on what was it, like TripAdvisor or Expedia, like one of those Travelocity, whatever. Those plan your trip to Boston things, and they have Fenway Park listed as the #1 tourist attraction in Boston, which is crazy when you think about how much American history is there and how many how much like the tourism industry matters there. They have it ranked as #1. So It's one of those things where like I've gone so many times, I think I've lost sight of like just how important it is culturally and how awesome it is. But like, let me tell you, I envy the experience that you're going to have. And when you do, let me know, because I'll tell you. Well, one, I'll be there and I'll say hi. But there's a specific way you got to go in. You got to go in gate D, and then there is a certain ramp right through. Like once you come in gate D at the bottom of the hill on the right, you come up right behind home plate, facing towards the monster, and the place just opens up to you as you come through the tunnel, and it's magical. I look forward to it every opening day. Make it a point to get there super early so I can be one of the first people to walk through that unbelievable experience. I would make it a point, man. Get yourself to Fenway.
And opening day is such an amazing experience too. I went to my first opening day this year. I didn't care how cold it was. It's just
It was
like
terrible.
It was bad, but the feeling in the air, just the experience of opening day at Fenway Park, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was like crazy.
Right up until the game started, it was awesome. And then the weather decided to be the weather. And I've been talking about the weather like every day this week. I'm so sick of it. I feel like I'm sitting around a water cooler. Like, oh, Johnson, how was your weekend? Oh, the weather, it's getting crazy out there. That's New England for you. I hate it. I feel like I'm a small talking dad. But the weather was crazy. And the Kluber, oh my God, Corey Kluber, that was like the first taste of him. And we were like, oh, I hope this is just a one-off. But why is he walking, guys? That's not like Frazier was just giving up steals. Like, oh my God, my hands were frozen. I bought like $40 worth of hot chocolate that day. I was like, just keep them coming. I mean, they were cold.
It was brutal.
Anyway,
my hands.
Also,
were
I got
frozen.
another question.
Hey, man.
Because we already know we signed Corey Kluber for a 1-year deal, even though he has been doing absolutely god awful.
Yeah.
Also we didn't sign Nathan Eovaldi for 2 years. We didn't sign Michael Walker for 4 years, just like the Padres did. Do you think that we just should have like signed like, I don't know, like a Justin Verlander, or maybe getting back Nathan Eovaldi, or maybe like a Michael Walker for 4 years? Or do you still want to believe with the rotation like right now, or maybe pick someone in the trade deadline, maybe like a Dylan Cease from the White Sox, maybe, because there are a lot of players like Aaron Hicks from the Yankees. He got DFA'd. He's now with the O's. He's been doing pretty good. Joey Gallo, he was with the Yankees and the Dodgers, and look at him now. He's with the Twins, who's doing pretty good so far. I just want to hear what your thoughts. Like, do you think like we should get like a Dylan Cease maybe like from the White Sox for an example, or Justin Verlander if he was still in free agency? Like,
I mean, sure, they're great pitchers, so like it'd be great to get great pitchers, but I think Verlander would have been a weird one because his price was so high because of how good last year was, and it still would have been it still would have fit with that old guy narrative. You know, the fact that we're bringing in a whole bunch of 40-year-olds. So it comes with its ups and downs. I think Nathan Eovaldi is a weird one because they gave him his best offer of the offseason, and he just didn't take it at the time. I do think the Sox were wrong for taking it off the table the second time, but like that's what staying under the luxury tax is. It's, limiting your money, and once they gave the money to Yoshi, they weren't willing to give it to Eovaldi. I think John Henry has enough money in his GD pockets to have both of them. But if he's telling us that we only get to pick out one toy at the store, then we already picked out our toy at the store.
Right.
Michael Walker, I think if you look at his numbers from last year, like beyond just like his his whip and his ERA, like if you look at any of his expected stuff and his advanced metrics, I think giving him a 4-year deal is like something only the Padres would do, because the Padres just enjoy lighting money on fire, and the Mets, like,
right, both of them.
It's like those are the only teams that really would do that, because Michael Walker had a fun, lucky year last year, and I don't think the Sox were wrong for not gambling on him. I sure wish they did, but I don't think it was a smart gamble. It's like, I don't know, you guys are gamblers at all. If you're, if you play some blackjack, it's like hitting a 15. It's like, is that a smart bet? No. Might it work out for you? Could you draw a 6 and get a 21? Sure. But it's not a smart bet, and nobody can blame you for not hitting it. So Sure, I wish they did, but I'm not upset about it. Dylan Cease is exciting. They need somebody soon. They need somebody sooner than the trade deadline. You can't wait and tread water and then get a good pitcher at the end of the year. They need something sooner.
Are you willing to roll the dice on Zach Plesac? I see he just got DFA'd. He's still young with a bunch of upside. Would you roll the dice if you're Chaim Bloom?
Given how other pitchers who are strong in other organizations come here and perform, no. Because I think honestly some of your coaching staff needs some overhaul, if I'm being totally transparent, because some of the guys are developing issues that they've never had before, especially recently. You know, Kluber coming here and starting to walk is weird. And like, he is older, but at the end of last year versus the beginning of this year, like, you're talking 5-6 months difference and a completely different guy. So a guy who's already struggling somewhere, I don't know if this is the place to improve it and turn it around. I really don't know. I would rather have a guy who's strong and ready to go and already in a good spot, although that will cost more. And I don't know how much Chaim is willing to part with, you know, some farm pieces. Although Bob might be in the conversation to be thrown around soon, dude, because the way he's playing in Worcester, it's like you got to get something for him, because there's no spot for him up here, and he's kind of proven up here that he doesn't get it done. But maybe there's a team that's willing to trade an integral piece for him that has some hope for him.
And then I know Justin had 2 more questions for you before we hop off.
I have one
Justin,
more, by the way.
You got one more? Ask one more, Harrison, and then we'll get to Justin and then wrap it up.
Okay, so we already know about the bogey. We signed for like, what was it, like 6 years? How much money was it again? It was like 6 years, 210. And I want you to answer this question: would you ever want to change that 6 to a 9?
No.
Wait, bogey?
Yes, if we had the chance.
You're saying, would I want to sign Bogey for 9 years? No, he signed for 11 years or 9 years.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
signed a
but
long
if you're
time,
Chaim Bloom
11
right now,
years.
if you're Chaim Bloom right now, would you ever want to, before you leave, would you
Mhm.
change that 6 to a 9
Meaning,
in years? Same money.
like, to keep Bogey here?
For 9 years.
I mean, depending on what the money, like, you're saying the same contract as the Padres gave him?
Pretty much the same money, the same AAV, just for 2 less years.
Yeah.
For PR's sake, sure. You know, for fan perspective, sure. But until Bogey does anything, like, it doesn't look bad yet. You know, there's other guys who look bad, like the fact that JD is doing what JD is doing. Like, that one looks bad right now. That one is one that you can point to and be like, man, why didn't they get that guy? But 0% of me as of this moment is like, damn, Bogey is doing so well. I wish he was here. I miss him personally. I miss him as the leader, as the face. But as of this moment, it doesn't point towards that being like a robbery and, you know, something that Chaim should have gotten done. But for his sake and for his legacy, being the guy who traded Mookie and lost out on Bogey, yeah, I'm sure he probably wishes that he got it done.
I agree. Justin, you got one more question and we're going to wrap it up, bud. So what's the question you got? Let's see it, Justin. You ready? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Here we go. In your mind, is the clock ticking, or do we still have a couple of weeks until the alarms go off?
It's right there. It's right there. This is a great time for Duvall to be coming back. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Because they are 9-16 in their last 25. They are 500. They are solidly in last place in the division right now. So another couple weeks of this, big alarms would be going off. So they need to turn it around ASAP. I would say I am concerned. I'm not panicked, but I am also frustrated because they're not supposed to be this. So at least that says something. They're not supposed to be this. They're supposed to be better, and there's still time for them to be better. It's not that like, well, this team sucks and they are what they are, and this is what we should have expected. It's like, no, they're underperforming. They can be better than this. So, but now is the time to turn around. You don't have the luxury, especially in this division. You don't have the luxury of, waiting until August to turn it on.
Agreed.
I agree. I think it's a little bit close before we hit the panic button. But I just want to thank you so much, Joey, for coming on here and taking the time out of your busy day and busy schedule to come out here and talk to us. We appreciate you so much for coming on and answering our questions for sure. Obviously, we got to throw around that Italian hand as always.
Hey.
And then as always, guys,
love
thank
talking
you so
socks. So
much.
I appreciate the opportunity too. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. You're always welcome. I always see you on Twitter in the ITM podcast. Everybody, if you guys are listening to this, go listen to the ITM podcast. It's an amazing podcast. But any Red Sox, as always on here, we always talk about supporting Red Sox content. Support Red Sox content on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you see it, always support it. But I just want to say thank you guys for listening. As always, guys, we are now on the Grandstand Production YouTube channel as of today. So if you guys are listening to this podcast, obviously we're featured on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and featured on Wisdom as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. From Rob, from Justin, from Gino, Italy Jet, Harrison, Dev, and Joey, we're signing off. We love that dirty water.
Dirty water.
Go Sox, baby.